This is Jerry Coleman, play-by-play voice of the Dothan High Wolves on 96.9 The Legend, and you're tuned into the Phillip Jordan podcast.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I am your host, Phillip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Dothan Wolves Football on 96.9 The Legend. Check out my written work over at the Auburn Wire and Last Word on college football. Got my show planned for you guys this week, a little later than we normally planned. Just had some stuff happen. But, hey, we got the podcast here for you, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I am going to be joined in just a few moments by Jeff Culhane. He is the voice of the Florida State Seminoles. We will be previewing the Florida State football team. Also talk a little basketball too with Jeff, and a lot of talk Gus Malzahn, of course, was my past when I was doing Auburn for Last Word on college football. I wrote a lot about those last couple of years with Gus there at Auburn. Of course, what happened in Central Florida, and now coming into Florida State to be the offensive coordinator. But we'll talk about that and much, much more. We'll get an early look at the Alabama-Florida State matchup, to kick off the season. So a lot of great stuff there with Jeff here on the podcast. But before we do that, let you guys know you can find me and the show. And before my voice goes for some reason, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. If you leave a review, I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you're just a straight-up hater. You can also check me out over on YouTube at Phillip Jordan Sports. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications, and also if you leave a comment there, I'll read those on future editions of the podcast as well. And you can email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Now let's jump into my conversation with the voice of the Florida State Seminoles, Jeff Culhane. Everybody, my guest today is the director of broadcasting at Seminole Sports Network, the play-by-play voice of the Florida State Seminoles. That's right. Joining me is Jeff Culhane. And Jeff, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Phillip, always great talking to you, and hope your summer has been great. And, man, we're looking forward to some college football coming up soon. It's talking season. Media days everywhere. Let's get it going, big guy.
Yeah, as we're recording this, it's day one in the SEC. I know the ACC will be doing their deal next week. And, yeah, going into this is, with college athletics, sports, during summertime, nothing going on there. What's your summer like?
Oh, man, I try and disconnect a little bit, play a little golf. It's not good. For it, you might as well check out all areas of the course, and so spend time with my family. I got 2 boys, Alexander and Everett. Their summertime birthday, so we celebrate that in June, and hang out with my wife Sarah as well. And it's been a busy summer. We bought a new house here in Tallahassee, so getting all settled in with that and gearing up for what's going to be a very fun and exciting 2025 campaign.
Yeah, the Seminoles will be very interesting this year, and I have multiple interests with this, but we'll get into the coming season. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but obviously last year, not the year Florida State Seminoles were hoping for. Brought a lot of talent out of the transfer portal, but as anything, you just don't know how that's going to mesh with certain players. Looking back, 2-10, 1-7 in the ACC, just from you being there, calling the game, seeing this team, day in, day out. What do you think happened last season?
Yeah, it was a stunner, obviously, coming off 13 wins in 23 and picked to win the league and a top 10 team, and just didn't come to fruition, obviously. I think the loss against Georgia Tech in Dublin shocked our players a little bit. Having a season where you got off to a tough start, and then injuries really snowballed, especially along the offensive line. Our offensive line had 10 different rotations in 12 games, the most, I think, this century. A lot of key personnel got hurt. We really had to rely on young players. And we played against teams, that turned out to be better than what you thought they were going to be this time of year a year ago. I mean, Memphis, I knew that was going to be a tough game, and we weren't playing well. SMU turned out to be a tough addition in the ACC. Notre Dame obviously played for the national championship a year ago. You play Miami. Florida got hot at the end of the year, and they became a better team. And it was just a year to forget in so many areas. So forgetting it, I'm sure there was a lot to learn from it for Mike Norvell. We've got a lot of new coaches, 2 excellent coordinators. I feel like we've made some good moves there with Gus Malzahn and Tony White. And so I'm excited. It's hard to predict when people ask the question, what do you think is going to happen? Because you're right. We got 49 new players on this team, new quarterback, a brand new offensive line, new receivers, new tight ends, new defense. So there's a lot of things we're all going to find out together, which makes the excitement of this upcoming season one that I know everybody's looking forward to.
Yeah, and of course, I'm in Alabama, and look, one of my other side guys, I covered Auburn Tigers for the Auburn Wire, do a little Alabama stuff and all that. So very familiar with Florida State's new offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn. And obviously, Norvell, Malzahn is a mentor to him, and Malzahn's had success. I'm kind of interested now with Gus Malzahn. He's been head coach, and what happened at Auburn happened, and then he had some success in Florida. I kind of wonder now that he's not the head coach, he can really zero back in on being an offensive coordinator and kind of maybe make some tweaks to his offense. Maybe it's kind of a little bit harder to do when you're the head coach with so many different things going on.
Yeah, Phillip, I think you hit it on the head, and that's important to remember for this team this upcoming season. You have an offensive mind in Gus Malzahn that is one of the best of this generation. And he's been a head coach now for a long time, ever since, going back to his days as Arkansas State. He took the OC job at Auburn, then took over at Auburn and led them to the national title game against Florida State back in 2013. Spent the last 4 years at UCF. And so I think he's at a point in his career right now where he just wants to coach ball. And I think it's I think it's being overlooked, quite honestly, in the narratives of this offseason. Because things didn't end well at UCF. He didn't have a lot of great success there. That Gus Malzahn is a wizard offensively. And when he just gets to focus on calling plays and none of the other stuff that comes with being a coach, I think people better look out. And he handpicked his quarterback in Tommy Castellanos. And I know, Tommy's end at BC was not a smooth one overall. But you go back to 23, and Florida State fans know the capability of Castellanos when he's just can play free and cut loose. And I think that's a big reason why early on in the process that Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn said, who do you want, who's our quarterback? And Tommy's name jumped off the page immediately. So to me, I think it's a storyline that's not being talked about enough. I mean, everybody is remembering Gus Malzahn, the head coach, where it's hard to be a head coach right now. It's not your grandfather's college football anymore. You are a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and your, contract negotiations and roster management is at its most complex of all time. And in all the things that are brand new falls in the lap of a head coach. And Mike Norvell went out and got himself some help with adding his mentor and Gus Malzahn. And so I'm excited about that. I think that is a huge storyline that everybody is glossing over right now, especially in the ACC, because this guy is one of the best offensive minds in all of college football.
Yeah, and it also got to be nice for you, Mike Norvell. I mean, Mike Norvell's a really good coach, but still you have at least someone you're going to trust that you can lean on, maybe have a sounding board on certain things too as well. With Gus Malzahn, and you talking about Castellanos. As soon as I saw the news that he transferred to Florida State, I was like, that's perfect fit. That's exactly the kind of quarterback Gus Malzahn wants, because his best success at Auburn was with Nick Marshall, not when he had more of your traditional, like a Jarrett Stidham or a Bo Nix, who were more of a passing quarterbacks. 2013, 2014 is when the Auburn offense was at its best. And just he's a guy that can rush for 1,000. He did it in 23. And I think last year he showed, look, the success wasn't there probably on the field, but he limited his interceptions, went for 14-5. So, you touched on him a little bit, just when you kind of just see what can be possible with him as the quarterback for Florida State.
Well, I think the sky's the limit, and I think we're all very interested to see how it comes together. He is so athletic. He's so talented. You hit on it. Coach Malzahn compares him to Nick Marshall, and you go back and watch that 2013 season, man, that Auburn offense was really impressive. And Nick Marshall is a guy that Gus Malzahn still calls one of the more underrated players that he's ever had, as far as the attention and the appreciation he deserved during his time at Auburn. And so I think that with Tommy, it's in there. Last year, Bill O'Brien changed offenses, more of a pro style. It just was not a match made in heaven overall. And so, Tommy needs to move around. And there's going to be some things in this offense that take advantage of Tommy's skill set. And Gus is not a guy that says, hey, we got to do it my way or the highway. He's going to look at his players, and he's going to call plays that fit the talents of his personnel. And so when you have a guy like Castellanos, who has shown us he can be efficient throwing the football and minimize mistakes, and he can extend plays with his legs, whereas Florida State had the most success at the quarterback position in recent memory is with Jordan Travis, who obviously was a tremendous dual threat player late in his career, became an excellent passer in the pocket his final year here in 2023, the all-time leading rusher by a quarterback by far in Florida State football history. And so you said it earlier, Castellanos, threw for 3,000 and ran for 1,000 his his sophomore year in 2023 at Boston College. And so, I'm not saying those are the kind of numbers he's going to have this year, but it's in there. He's done it before, and he's a very confident young man. I think he really is excited about the talent he has around him all across the board. And he's got an offensive line that is proven. It's veteran with the guys that Norvell, Malzahn, and Herb Hand went out and identified in December out of the transfer portal. So it's a quarterback that has that charisma as well. He's a guy that when he first got to Tallahassee, he asked for all of the phone numbers of every single player on the team to connect with all these guys, specifically the newcomers, to help them move in to Tallahassee. So he's a player's leader, and he's going to open his mouth and let you know what needs to be done. But I think he's really developed great chemistry in the locker room already within this football team.
Yeah, of course. And then Florida State has also done a good job at adding wide receivers through the portal. Squirrel White from Tennessee had a really good 23, over 800 yards. The Tennessee passing game was kind of hit and miss last year. And then Deuce Robinson coming from USC. So they brought in some really good talent to give Castellanos.
Well, you hit on Squirrel. I mean, he was clocked at 23.4 miles per hour in practice at Tennessee. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, Phillip, but that's moving. Yeah. And he's a transfer that I think when you look at guys that can be explosive and create big plays, Squirrel White's one of those guys. He's got to stay healthy, though. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to be on the field for all 12 regular season games. Deuce Robinson, same way, had flashes at USC. He has obviously pedigree with his father, Dominic, who played wide receiver here at Florida State from 01 to 04. Big body, 6'6", and confident as well. There's a youngster in Javon Boggs who Malzahn recruited at UCF. He's from, Cocoa, Florida, on the Space Coast side of the state, who has really turned some heads in practice already. You hear a lot of players talking about Javon Boggs, who's a true freshman at wide receiver. So that receiver room, a year ago had some injuries, some inconsistencies, need some veteran guys to step up, and some did, some didn't. But the talent infused to that room in the passing game is going to help in a huge way in 25.
Look on the defense side of the ball. Well, talk about recruiting and transfer portal. Probably the best reacquisition or not leaving was Daryl Jackson on the defensive front. Getting him back, 3.5 sacks last year. He opted out. He did not go NFL. Then you also add James Williams from Nebraska, a guy that can get to the quarterback. Something that we're struggling at time Florida State last year. What excites you about this Florida State defense?
Well, Tony White is what excites me. I think Tony White's a head coach down the road. I hope he's at Florida State for a long time. He's the leader of this defense, but he's got that kind of moxie and that makeup. And there's a reason why, he has traveled from Syracuse to Nebraska and now here to FSU. He provides a defense that's aggressive, that's multiple, that's confusing, brings guys from different areas on the field, and it really keeps offenses on their heels. And, you hit on Darrell Jackson. Mike Norvell said the same thing. He was the biggest recruit in the recruiting class of 2025. And, he's just scratching the surface, Phillip. I mean, he's 6'6", 337. He runs like a linebacker. I mean, this guy is a huge, huge presence. And I think we're going to see Tony White move him around and use him in different areas of the line of scrimmage to impact and impose his will. And he got better as the year went along. He had 3 sacks over the last couple of games of the season, a career-high 2 sacks at Miami. He really started to turn it on when the switch got flipped. And can he keep that switch flipped, Phillip, for 12 games all year and beyond? And so he's a huge pro prospect, and he's got a chance to be one of the best players in all of college football if he can be consistent and if he can stay healthy. And so, Darrell Jackson, and then you talked about James Williams. I would add Deontay McCray, Jason Jenkins, the Tennessee transfer. Diamante Diggs has traveled from Youngstown State to Coastal Carolina. Those are just a few names up front that are going to provide some solid depth overall. But I think the secondary room, the defensive backs, this is a deep and talented group that Patrick Surtain heads up, and Evan Cooper is a new coach, the safeties coach as well, who's a part of this staff. Jeremiah Wilson comes in from Houston, who had a great season a year ago in the Big 12. He was recruited by Tony White and played at Syracuse in 2022 and 2023. Just a ton of young talent. And that rover position, which needs to be an athletic, versatile spot in Tony White's defense, you hear a lot about Earl Little Jr., who started his career at Alabama, and the son of 9-year NFL vet Earl Little Sr. Reminds Mike Norvell of an All-American here at Florida State, Jamie Robinson, who played the safety spot and was a tackling machine. Earl Little Jr., redshirt sophomore at Fort Lauderdale. That's a young man that turned heads in spring, and I think one of the guys that things really click for him in this new defense, and it feels like he's really found a home at that rover spot for Tony White.
Looking at the schedule, I was going to bring up Jeremiah Wilson on my notes, but you beat me to it on that one. The schedule, of course, the Alabama game to open up. There's been some conversation around that one. I'll just leave that there. Them coming into Tallahassee. I know Florida State is the first time a lot of these guys playing together. Alabama's going to come into a hostile environment. There's going to be a raucous crowd there at Tallahassee, I'm pretty sure. They'll be having a brand new quarterback, Ty Simpson, who has not played a lot. I mean, everybody's assuming he's going to be the starting quarterback. I mean, Alabama's got plenty of it's kind of like your just early thoughts, as we're sitting here in middle of July about that opening game with Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama's still Alabama, Phillip. They haven't. I know they went 9-4 last year and whatever, but they're still Bama. And Kalen DeBoer is a great coach. He's coached Washington to a national championship game. Look at his record. I mean, he hasn't lost really at all as a head coach anywhere he's been. He's a winner. He knows what it takes, and so this is going to be an amazing contest with an amazing atmosphere, a newly renovated stadium here at Doe Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. Sold-out crowd, around 70,000 fans, maybe more in this new setup that they have here at Doak. And, what a great early season college football game. That's what I love early on in the year about our college football regular season. We're getting more and more of these games. And I think as this era of college football continues to grow, we're going to continue to get these games because TV ratings will rise. That will create more money opportunities for all the teams and all the brands and the programs that are, considered blue bloods in college football, to use a term. So I think we'll see more of these games early on, which is great for the sport. And it's great for the fans, and it's what everybody wants to see. So a tremendous test. New quarterback, like you mentioned, for Alabama. Bama's coming into a road environment. It's not a neutral site game. So, it's definitely going to be challenging for them. But they are a very talented team. And so, I think if you're asking me to diagnose the game early on in the contest is going to be critical. Can Florida State have success early, maybe get a score, maybe get a turnover, get the crowd into it, maybe get to Ty Simpson and put him on his back a few times and cause some doubt and put a little chink in the armor. But it's a full four-quarter game, obviously. I know Bama's a double-digit favorite. I tell you what, I think we're going to have one heck of a football game that afternoon to open up the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to it that day. I'm glad Auburn actually plays on Friday night, so I can focus in on this one when that was kicked off at 2:30 Central Time. And in basketball, real quickly, obviously Florida State has a new head basketball coach. I made sure I practiced on the name, make sure I got it right here, because Florida State people will probably get on to me. Luke Loucks, is that how you pronounce it? But former NBA assistants got 2 NBA titles, but he's a Florida State guy. He was there from 08 to 12. And I was looking at his playing history. I kind of forgot. I remember this ACC tournament. He was the all ACC tourney team when they won the title in 12, beat Miami, Duke, and North Carolina. Jeff, I don't care what year it is. Whenever you beat Duke and North Carolina in the ACC tournament, that is success for that team. But what's been your early impressions on the new Florida State men's basketball coach?
Yeah, Luke Loucks, a huge excitement level. And Leonard Hamilton, one of the all-time greats to me. He's going to be in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, already a part of 7 Hall of Fames in his illustrious career. Did an unbelievable job here. I think we need to put his name on the court here at the Tucker Center. I hope we do at some point in time. But it was time. It was time. And unfortunately, as things have changed, you've seen new direction and new leadership and people that have a better feel, a better understanding for what this is and how this era of developing teams and the quick turnover and roster management, especially in college basketball, come about. And I don't think there's anybody better for the job than Luke Loucks. You mentioned his NBA career as an assistant coach, world champion. What a tree he's been under with Steve Kerr and Monty Williams and Mike Brown, who now was just announced as the new head coach of the New York Knicks just recently last week. And so he's got great pedigree. He was a winner here at Florida State, a part of Leonard Hamilton's first ACC tournament championship team in 2012. You mentioned that a moment ago. He knows how to win. He knows how he wants his teams to play, and he's going to bring an exciting brand of basketball. And he's going to do a great job in understanding and bringing the right players that fit what he wants to do and how he wants to play in this era to Tallahassee and with Florida State hoops. So it's going to be a brand new, exciting brand of basketball. I think we're going to see, a return on investment sooner rather than later. And I know fans are excited to see Florida State basketball get back to what we saw under Leonard Hamilton, where we saw runs to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, just a handful of years ago. Luke Loucks has that capability and has a great staff in place as well to change the culture a little bit and provide a new era and new style of FSU hoops.
Yeah, I mean, when you can go into a kid's house, living room, and when you're recruiting, you can say, "Hey, I'm Coach Steph Curry. I've been around this," and then you get top level players. They can, that experience that's got to mean a lot too, just from bringing in talent, just his experience from the NBA, and also, like you said, and we talked about it, he's been at Florida State, so he knows what it's like to be in Tallahassee, but he also knows about that next level. So he's got so many different things that can work in his favor just from recruiting standpoint.
Well, that's the recruiting pitches. I know how to get you to the NBA. I've been around the best players. DeAndre Fox, he and DeAndre Fox in Sacramento. Those guys were together every day, and Luke worked with Fox every single day on every aspect of his game. And every player thinks they're going to play in the NBA. That plays Power 4, Power 5, high major college basketball. They come here and they all believe that's the case. We certainly know that that's not the case, but that's a big part of the recruiting pitch is, hey, maybe you don't have the money that a Duke or a Kansas or a Kentucky or a Carolina have, but if you want to make that big money and you want to get to the next level and get to your second contract in the NBA and make hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm your guy. And I think that's an exciting recruiting pitch for players that maybe won't get paid as much as the biggest money college basketball programs will get right away, but you learn how to play and play an NBA style at Florida State. That's going to carry over, and scouts and teams are going to see that in a big time way.
Yeah, so it's going to be very exciting when basketball comes around. Of course, we get to start football season first, and it's going to be exciting with Florida State. I'm really intrigued to see how the offense Gus Malzahn does. So it's going to be exciting to see. Hey, he's got success against Alabama in his past. I'm just going to throw it out there. Any Alabama fan listening is probably just hit delete on their subscribe button on the podcast, but I'll bring it up. That Gus did beat Nick Saban 3 times. Notice Nick Saban's not the coach there, but he did beat Alabama 3 times. So he's familiar with defeating the team wearing the crimson. I'll just say that. But Jeff, it's been great as always having you on the show. I always enjoy talking Florida State athletics with you. If the listeners, viewers want to check out, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media on Twitter at Jeff Culhane, and also for Florida State fans and college football, college athletics fans, check out the Seminole Sports Network podcast. It's on all streaming platforms.
All right, go check it out. Jeff, again, I appreciate the time. I look forward to doing this again sometime down the road.
Thank you, Phil. Always good talking to you.
All right, once again, thanks to Jeff Culhane for coming on this edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. Appreciate him coming on the show. Recorded out Monday. Finally get this thing out here. Video-wise, Wednesday night. Podcast Thursday morning. That's usually, I do it sometimes. Release the video at night and then the audio podcast. So if you're seeing the video and you ain't got time to check the video out and you're looking for the audio podcast will be coming your way on Thursday morning. That's going to do it for this episode. I may do something around lunchtime on Thursday, just a solo pod, kind of just some notes from SEC Media Days. No, people are looking for. So where's SEC Media Days? Well, I'm going to do a solo pod either Thursday or maybe even Friday, go into the weekend on that. And also look at some other stuff going on in sports. Do about a 30-minute podcast. The Wiregrass Sports Hall of Fame got announced on Wednesday. So I may get into that as well. And if anybody in the Wiregrass area can help me out, maybe we can get some interviews with some of these people too. But that'll be something. And next week we'll dive into SEC Media Days and stuff on next week's show. I'm planning on doing some big stuff with that. So good stuff coming on the channel, on the feed. So please stay tuned for all that. Remember, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast available on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Or on YouTube, Phillip Jordan Sports. Email me, sports.phillipjordan@gmail.com. Please check out all my written work over at the Auburn Wire and Lifebook on college football. And until next time, bye-bye.